So it's time, 13 years in the making. UFC 329 McGregor versus Holloway number 2 takes place this Saturday, July 11th, International Fight Week. We're going to run through breakdown and predictions for every fight, breakdown for some, because believe it or not, these early prelims, I only gave a shit about one fight. Farid Basharat versus Ethan Ewing, and it got cancelled. We were about to have the Lord Farquaad off in the early prelims, and Ethan Ewing had to pull out due to injury. He has been replaced by John Garza, so now I don't care about any of the early prelims. I was going to just go for the Brazilian sweep. Costa over Durden, Gandra over Reese. Farid Basharat will now win that fight. I was going to pick Ethan Ewing, but I think that Penis is going to beat Almeida, so sadly no Brazilian sweep. We're going to go for Costa, Gandra, Basharat, Penis, and look, Tracy Cortez and Wang Kong have a combined total of 21 wins and 6 finishes. So 29-28, flip a coin. Who wins? Wang Kong. Right, that's it. So those are the early prelim predictions. Let's get into the actual prelims. First fight, Luke Riley versus Kai Kamaka. I'm going to have people's rankings on the screen when necessary. I'm going to have the odds on the screen as well. Luke Riley does come into this one as the favourite, which I think he should be, and I think he's going to win. But looking at Kai Kamaka first, he was in UFC for a while. He went away. He's now back. He has been chinned before, but he ain't getting knocked out here. Looking at his record for a minute, 18 wins, 3 knockouts, 1 sub. So he has 18 wins and only 4 finishes. This does not make for good reading. So his average fight time is nearly 15 minutes too. It's like 13 something, 54 maybe. I feel so that number rings a bell. And Luke Riley, after his first 2 performances in UFC, I think this is going to a decision as well. Because look, Luke Riley in his first fight, he's only had 2 in the UFC. He turned up and got beaten up for the first round and came back and swiftly defeated his opponent in like 30 seconds into the second round. So whilst it was an impressive finish, it wasn't really an impressive performance. Then fast forward to UFC London earlier this year actually. He was actually really disappointed in his performance. I remember Bisping interviewing him after the fight saying he was giving it like a 5 out of 10 at best. I don't think it was that bad. It was just kind of really, it was uninspiring. He took on Aswell Jr. and it was 3 rounds to a decision. It was unanimous and it was unanimous. He definitely won. It was comfortable for him, but it didn't excite you when you watched it. It's not really what you want to see from 13-0 prospect. So I actually think it's going to be more of the same here. Kai Kamaka is not bad. I don't think he's that great either. So I think this is just going to end up stalling out to a 3-round decision. I think it's going to be 30-27 to Luke Riley. But I don't think either guy is going to look that impressive here. I don't think it's going to be... It's one of these fights that's on the card. You're hoping Luke Riley can do something crazy, but don't hold your breath for it. Looking at Kamaka's losses as well, split decisions. He has been KO'd, but again, more decisions, and then you're going back way too far for it to even matter anymore. So Luke Riley by decision, 30-27 next up. And people forget, man, Cody Garbrandt robbed Zhao Long in his last fight. Jesus Christ, the absolute barren wasteland of unranked bantamweight. Look, neither of these guys is looking too hot. Yanez comes into this the favourite, and I do fancy him to win, just because, I mean, Garbrandt, man, fuck. If we look at Garbrandt for 1 second, right, and trust what we've seen with our own eyes, instead of just looking at, like, the record on the paper, he lost that fight to Zhao Long, and you'll remember there was, like, a brutal groin shot in there, right? It was horrific. But he get handed the win here and he lost that fight. Okay, that is what happened. So if we say that he lost that, he'd also lost by decision to Jaime Barcelos. He also lost by sub to Figueiredo. You're then going back to Brian Kelleher in like 2023 for his last win. I just feel like Cody Garbrandt is on like a second slide. You know what I mean? You know how people talk about like he's into his second prime. You know, Max Holloway hit a second prime. Cody Garbrandt is now hitting a second slide where he had his run, he fell off, he then started to pick things back up. He beat Trevin Jones, he beat Brian Kelleher, he got these wins, and then he lost to Figueiredo, he's lost to Barcelos. He technically beat Zhao Long, but he actually lost if you like watch the fight with both your eyes. And I think he's going to lose to Yanez. Now, he doesn't really have these like names on the resume that just jump off the page at you being like, oh my god, he beat this guy who went on to be a top contender. Like, his wins, granted, he does have a fair few finishes, but you're going back a fair few years for them. You know, even as of recent, like his losses, okay, let's look at it. Rob Font, who, okay, Rob Font, he's a name. But after Rob Font's last performance, when he get held down by Raul Rosas Jr., that loss has not aged well. And I understand that he's a different style fighter to Raul Rosas Jr., so it's not really going to, you know, go down like that here. But he also then lost to Martinez after that, Jonathan Martinez, and then beat Salvador, lost to Marcos, drew with Ricky Simon. It's a really patchy record as of late. You don't really know what you're going to get. Can he return to form with another knockout here over Garbrandt? I don't even know. You know that? I really don't know. I think he's going to win. And I don't want to predict another decision because going out of a Wang Kong Tracy Cortez decision into into a Luke Riley versus Kai Kamaka decision, coming into a Cody Garbrandt, Adrian Yanez 3-round decision. You've watched 9 straight rounds, no finishes. Can it happen? Yes. Should it happen? I would hope not. Part of me wants to predict Adrian Yanez by knockout. To be fair to him, he has a few first round knockouts, so it's not impossible. But again, you're going back years. So I'm going to predict an Adrian Yanez decision. Holy shit, the start to this card is going to be rough. But things will pick up in the back half. I'm taking Adrian Yanez here by decision. In fact, things might be about to pick up now because I am really looking forward to this one. I don't know if you're prepared to listen to how excited Joe Rogan is going to be for this one. Just a prerequisite here. Prepare for the glaze, okay, coming from Joe Rogan about Gable Steveson. I'm excited for this fight. I'm excited to see what Gable Steveson looks like in the octagon. But just warning you right now, put the TV on mute so you don't need to hear Joe Rogan glaze the fuck out of Gable Steveson. You know he knocked a guy out and took him down at the same time all in 1 second. He's just so fast. Meanwhile, DC's sitting there seething in the corner because John Jones is cornering Gable Steveson. He's sitting there with gritted teeth hoping that he loses. Joe Rogan going on, look how fast he is. You know, casuals won't appreciate this kind of agility and this kind of speed and how much skill this takes, you know. This guy's an Olympic gold medalist. DC literally fucking punching the air trying to do commentary. Look, these odds are not a lie. Gable Steveson is really this much of a favourite, which should tell you all you need to know. But, I mean, I don't even know if he should be this much of a favourite. He's had 3 fights, you know, and nobody's watched these fights. You've seen the clip on Twitter of the knockout. Look, he's been fighting in like dirty boxing and stuff like that. With John Jones being his coach. So, look, he's going to be half decent coming into this thing, right? He's going to be well prepared for his debut. And I think John Jones being his coach is going to help him out a lot, right? What do you know, right? Having one of, if not the best fighter of all time in your corner is probably going to help you. But I think Jon Jones is going to tell Steveson to not let the cat out the bag. We don't need to see the big double leg takedown. We don't need to see really any of your wrestling. If you can get this done round one on the feet, do it. And we'll hold back on letting people see everything just yet, considering how much Jon Jones focuses on people's tape, right? The highlights, the studying everything. He's going to be looking at that from his perspective, like, okay, we don't want them to see all of this yet. Let's give them a little bit, not everything. I would put the house on round one here. Either he's going to go straight for the knockout on the feet, keep it standing, or you're going to see him hit the double leg, take him down, ground and pound finish. But it's going to be over quick so that they can try and hide the weaknesses of his game, because look, he's only been doing this, I'm not kidding, for about a year and a half, maybe. Like those fights that you've seen on Twitter, he's not been training that long. He just has a lot of wrestling experience. But like Jon Jones is going to want this done early. I think Gable Steveson's going to want this done early. Let's put out the strengths, let's hide the weaknesses, get back, train, come back, maybe... I was going to say end of the year. Nah. He's... I can already tell the activity is going to be low. But then again, he actually needs time to train. So it's not the way Arman Tsarukyan fights once in 2 years. It's not going to be that kind of activity, or at least I'm not going to feel, as angry as Gable Steveson as I would at Arman Tsarukyan, because Gable Steveson is genuinely so inexperienced and he will need time to train. And just to prepare everybody, he probably will be can crushing for a couple of years before he gets that step up in competition. And I'm predicting round one for Gable Steveson over Alicia Ellison. We don't even need to go into this. The odds speak for themselves. This is going to go one way. Next up, Robert Whittaker versus Nikita Krylov. When this card first got put out, Gable Steveson versus Alicia Ellison was on like the main card. They put up a graphic and it had 5 fights on it. We had the top 4, which are going to be the same when we get to them. But then we had Gable Steveson versus Alicia Ellison as the opener to the main card. And everybody was raging at this, okay? Because they were looking at this as like Bo Nickel 2.0. So then UFC adjust the card. They're like, okay, we'll take... And this was the other thing. They were like, Robert Whittaker moving up to light heavyweight, can't even get on the main card, right? So UFC looked at this and thought, right, okay, we'll take Gable. We don't, because Bo Nickel gets a lot of hate, right? Best kickboxer at middleweight, by the way. Just saying, don't believe me, watch his last 2 fights. Okay, we don't want the same situation to happen with Bo Nickel as for Gable Steveson, right? We'll take him off the main card. Everybody wants Robert Whittaker versus Krylov on there. We're not going to do that either, though. We're going to put Bobby Green and Terence McKinney on the main card and keep Robert Whittaker on the prelims. Good stuff. Although, look, Bobby Green and Terence McKinney is going to be fight of the night. I'm just putting it out there. That is going to be either the best 2.5 rounds you've seen or the most action-packed 30 seconds ever. But we'll save that for that prediction. Robert Whittaker versus Krylov. Robert Whittaker, Bobby Knuckles, moving up to light heavyweight for the first time towards the end of his career. His last couple of fights at middleweight didn't really go his way. He lost to Khamzat Chimaev in just horrendous fashion. If you remember, Khamzat got the choke on him, the squeeze, and popped his bottom teeth out. It was disgusting, okay? Horrific. But he then lost a split decision to Reina Derrida, which was a close fight and not a good one to me. I think both guys just looked really, really tired towards the end. It just wasn't good to me watching it. Flashbacks to that fight. It wasn't good. Both of them are now moving up to light heavyweight. So I don't know if it's going to be, we were just so, drained and the weight cut was so bad that by the time round 5 came, we were just so tired. The fight got really bad, really sloppy towards the end, just slow. But you're going back to 2024 for Robert Whittaker's last win, his last KO win over Aliskerov. It came in the first round, couple of minutes in. And then before that, he beat Paulo Costa. He lost to Duplessis. He beat Vito. It was very up and down yo-yo, one win, one loss for Robert Whittaker. I don't know how he's going to fare moving up to light heavyweight because he is shorter. And he's older. And he said as much in interviews that this isn't like him preparing for a second run to the belt or whatever. He's older now. So he's moving up. The weight cut's not going to be as bad for him, but let's not pretend like he's about to go on the big run and take on Alberg. You know what I mean? This is just for him to get some more paydays before he eventually retires, and I have got no problem with that whatsoever. But him coming up against Nikita Krylov is going to be a tough matchup for him. He has wins, but it's not as though he's unbeatable. Okay, and what I'm looking at here on Krylov's record is the amount of, at least recent, round one losses. So I think Robert Whittaker's best course of action is going to be going all out in the first. Okay, Krylov is coming off a win over Modestas Bukauskas. That came in round 3. But before that, he lost to Bogdan Guskov round 1. He lost to Dominic Reyes in round 1. Ryan Spann finished that. He won that in round 1. Ozdemir decision Gustafsson round 1. Paul Craig, he lost round 1. And then before that's Ankalaev, and you're back to like 2020. That's like 5 years ago, right? Who cares? But Robert Whittaker, to me, best course of action here is going to be going all out in round 1. Because Nikita Krylov has shown vulnerability in the early stages of the fight. But looking at Robert Whittaker's record, like Reina de Ridder loses the split decision, loses to Khamzat, right? Nobody at light heavyweight is like Khamzat Chimaev, except if Khamzat Chimaev moves up. He beat Aliskerov and Paulo Costa, which has aged well, particularly after Paulo Costa moving up and showing what he can do at light heavyweight. Before that, again, lost to Dricus and then Adesanyas, whatever. In terms of a prediction here, it's tough. Because how big is Nikita Krylov, man? Nikita Krylov, according to Tapology, is 6'3". He's pretty tall. Most of his losses come by submission as well, which isn't ideal. I really want to pick Robert Whittaker, right? He's the underdog coming into this, and I want Robert Whittaker to win. I'm almost manifesting a Robert Whittaker win, and I'm manifesting like a round 1 knockout. Oh my God, Bobby Knuckles has turned up to light heavyweight. What can he do from here? This is what I'm manifesting in my mind. See the way we speak about Paulo Costa moving up? I want that same thing for Robert Whittaker. Like, oh my God, different beast. Just a completely different animal at light heavyweight, Bobby Knuckles. My head is saying Krylov by decision, but I need to go Robert Whittaker round 1 KO. I'm doing it. Bobby Knuckles round 1 KO, underdog story. It's going to happen. I'm putting it out there. I'm manifesting it. And that's going to cap off the prelims as we head into the main card for the first fight. Bobby Green, Terence McKinney. If every fight was 30 seconds, Terence McKinney would be the world champion. Terence McKinney is like the most chin or be chinned fighter ever, right? 30 seconds into this fight, it could be all over. Or if it goes past 30 seconds, I can see Bobby Green just putting in like a vintage Bobby Green performance because he just decides to turn this on or off like at a whim, right? I don't understand it. There's a point in time where you're looking at Bobby Green going, holy shit, right? Like, this guy is so fun to watch and he's actually picking up wins. And then he starts to go on this slide where you're like, oh my God, and look at his record. Jesus Christ, how's he get this many fights, right? Never mind wins or loss. How's he just get this many fights? And then he starts picking up more wins again, and you're like, holy shit, he's back. He's going on a run. And then he loses again. And we're almost at the point of like the Bobby Green tipping point where he's been winning and he's been putting in like really decent performances. So it almost has to now turn the other way, right? The worm has to eventually turn. And Terence McKinney, I love this fight, right? Just to put this out, I love this fight. But I'm going to be nervous for the first 30 seconds because this is where Terence McKinney has got the most threat. But if he can make it past those 30 seconds, let me read you something. Terence McKinney's record here, okay, names on a page. He beats Kyle Nelson, round 1, 24 seconds. He loses to Chris Duncan, 2.5 minutes, round 1. He beats Borshev, round 1, 55 seconds. He beats Hadzovic, round 1, 2 minutes, 1 second. He loses to Ribovic, round 1, 37 seconds. He loses to grappling, never mind. He beats Brandon Marotti, round 1, 20 seconds. In fact, circling back, even that grappling match only went 1.5 minutes, round 1. He beat Mike Breeden, round 1, 1 minute 25. He then lost to Nazim Sadikov, round 2, 1 minute, 7 seconds. You have to go back to 2023 for a fight to make it out of the first round. And then even if you go a little bit further back than that, he lost to Ismail Bonfirm, round 2. He then beat Eric Gonzalez, round 1, 2 minutes 17. Lost to Drew Dober, round 1, 3 minutes 17 seconds. He beat Fares Zahim, round 1, 2 minutes 11 seconds. This guy is seriously one of a kind. I don't get it. This fight becomes a question of, is Bobby Green chinny enough to get taken out in 30 seconds? Yes. Yes, he is. This is just about whether you think Terence McKinney will actually get the knockout or fumble the knockdown. So, Terence McKinney has been known to knock a guy down early on and fumble the finish and then end up losing. So, again, I don't want this just to become what I'm manifesting, right? I've already used the manifestation card on Robert Whittaker versus Krylov. I'm manifesting another Bobby Green win. And if he gets knocked down, he's getting finished. That's the thing. If Bobby Green goes down in 30 seconds, he's getting finished by Terence McKinney. And just judge it, pattern recognition, right? Which is a crazy statement to use right now. But pattern recognition in Bobby Green's career is he racks up a few wins and then it gets a little tougher because Terence McKinney is a step up from Jeremy Stephens, is a step up from Zell Huber, is a step up from Lance Gibson Jr. And although that's the thing, Bobby Green's last two losses, he lost to Huffy, who's good. He lost to Pimblett, who is good. You know, like he beats the sort of lower level guys. Terence McKinney, fuck man. You know what? I think it's time. If you're betting on this, I would say Terence McKinney round 1. I'm manifesting Bobby Green round 1. End of the round. My prediction's Terence McKinney, but I want Bobby Green to win. So that's that for that fight. Next up, we have Brandon Royval versus Lona Kavanagh. This also has potential to be fight of the night, and I'm picking Brandon Royval. I'm saying it now. I'm seeing a lot of people go for Lona Kavanagh. He's just like flyweight Paddy Pimblett, right? And what I mean by that is, remember when Paddy Pimblett beat Michael Chandler and Pimblett was like 12 in the rankings or whatever, right? He was like a lower ranked guy. He beats Michael Chandler and all of a sudden he floats up the rankings like nobody notices, and he makes it somehow to number 5 just so they can book an interim title fight between him and Gaethje. That's the vibes I'm getting from Lona Kavanagh, where he wins a few low-ranked fights, he gets chinned by Charles Johnson, He then beats Brandon Moreno, who's washed, and all of a sudden he's number 6 in the rankings because Brandon Moreno is like number 7. But even his ranking is like inflated just because how high he was, right? Brandon Moreno's on the downturn, and he was still highly enough ranked that Lona Kavanagh could go to Mexico City and beat him, which was a good win, was a very good win. And all of a sudden he beats Brandon Moreno. He's now number 6 in the rankings, taking on Brandon Royval. And Brandon Royval is a true test. Brandon Royval, although he has some losses, although he got chinned badly by Manel Kape in his last fight, is by no means washed. Very, very tough opponent. And if Lona Kavanagh can actually get this done, I will take him as a serious threat at flyweight. I feel as though people are already putting him in that category, and it's based on nothing because Brandon Moreno's washed, right? It's like you get chinned by Charles Johnson and all of a sudden people think you're Joshua Van. Oh, man, he get chinned by Charles Johnson. Lona Kavanagh's about to go on the title run. It just doesn't make sense to me. He's like Paddy Pimblett, where it's like you get a decent win and all of a sudden your artificial inflation, your elo goes all the way up because you beat a former champion, taken completely out of context the state of that former champion. Kavanagh is somehow the favourite for this as well. He had a good couple of rounds against Brandon Moreno, granted. Royval's already beat Moreno. You know what I mean? You look at Royval's losses, that Joshua Van fight is closer than anybody wants to admit. Whenever I hear people talk about Joshua Van, it's always, oh, and he he dominated Manel Kape, right? They give it credit for it being like a great fight and a war or whatever, but they talk about it as though he easily dispatched a Brandon Royval over 3 rounds. That fight, rewatch it, is insanely close. And Joshua Van went on to be champion after that. Now, say what you want about Pantoja got injured, he didn't really win the belt, whatever, right? He beat Tatsuro Taira. Guess who else beat Tatsuro Taira? Brandon Royval did, okay? He get chinned by Manel Kape in his last fight at the end of last year, and it was a bad knockout. But Horiguchi just gets slimed as well. So Manel Kape could be the next world champion. I'm not kidding. He could knock out Joshua Van because Manel Kape just has this weird ability where he can be losing a fight, bang, he's got so much power in his hands that he can just knock you out. It can happen. And although it was round 1, although it was 3 minutes in, I think it's not as though Royval gets beat by Manel Kape and I'm like, oh wow, he's finished, he's done, he's washed. There was talk about Brandon Royval moving up to bantamweight a little while ago, but he's still taking fights at flyweight. So I don't know how much stock to put in that. I don't know if he's waiting to get a decent win so that his opponent at bantamweight can then be better. But Lona Kavanagh's best win is over a washed Brandon Moreno. Royval beat him 2 years ago. Like, you look at Royval's losses, Manel Kape, Joshua Van, Pantoja twice, Brandon Moreno back in 2020, prime Moreno. So, like, I don't understand how Kavanagh's the favourite here. I have Royval by decision. I see this being a good fight. I see this being similar to that kind of... It's not going to be as good as Van. Royval, I take that back. But I do think the potential's there for this to be a banger. So, and looking at Kavanagh's wins, right? Because I focused a lot on the Moreno one. He gets chinned by Charles Johnson in round 2. I think there's a potential that this could be a TKO for Royval. I don't think it will happen, but I think there's potential for it. Decision against Felipe Dos Santos. Decision against Ochoa. Knockout over fucking... Again, who the fuck are any of these guys? And then you go back to his Cage Warrior fights, where again, decisions in there too. Royval's winning this. I don't give a fuck what anybody's saying. I don't care how much you like Lona Kavanagh. Brandon Royval is going to beat him 30-27, 29-28. He's getting a unanimous decision. Sorry, it's happening, right? I don't see this going any other way. And loads of people are picking Kavanagh, and I think that's why the odds are skewed that way. Like, a lot of people are putting money down on Kavanagh, so the bookies are like, oh, okay, well, we'll make him the favourite. Brandon Royval is going to win this. See, of all these fights, especially the next one's coming up, in fact, probably, yeah, see on the main card, I am most certain of this result right here. I think there's more question about Bobby Green, Terence McKinney than there is about this fight. I think there's more question over Sandhagen, Bautista, BSD Pimblett, and McGregor Holloway. In fact, okay, maybe not McGregor Holloway. Right, but it's there. You know what I mean? Like, I am so certain Brandon Royval is going to win this thing. So, he's the underdog too. Probably some good money to be made on it. Next up, we have a really tough fight here. We have Cory Sandhagen versus Mario Bautista. I mean, Mario Bautista, wanted international criminal, both domestic and foreign terrorist. I mean, look, Mario Bautista, there's a lot of people in the UFC roster that I would label as the sort of king of the decision. And there's always one in the rankings, particularly at the top. You know, it's Max Holloway at lightweight, used to be at featherweight. It's Sean Strickland at middleweight. But it's Mario Bautista at bantamweight. And this is the thing, the king of the decision often makes it to the top of the division, right? But sadly, you've already got Merab Dvalishvili at the top of the division. So do we have room for two of them? Umar is also up there. This doesn't make for good reading when you look at the number of decisions at the top of bantamweight and you're like, right, okay, but Mario Bautista is like coming up. Oh no, more of these decision merchants at the top of the card. We don't need that. But we have a saving grace that he's up against Cory Sandhagen, and given Cory Sandhagen's performance against Merab in that first round at least, and that's the thing, see in the first round, Sandhagen looked as though he was really onto something. And then the second round happens, Merab puts together like a 4-piece combo on him, and now all of a sudden commentary is shitting their pants thinking, oh my god, this world champion has added striking to the repertoire. And then Merab sort of started to take over the rest of that fight and go on to win. But this is a 3-round fight instead of a 5-round fight. And if Cory Sandhagen can replicate that first round against Bautista here, Bautista's going to be in some real trouble, because then he's only got 2 rounds to make it back. But then again, for Cory Sandhagen, making Merab look like he has hands is an accomplishment. Before that, he was beating Figueiredo. Everybody's beating Figueiredo, right? Figgy, see Brandon Moreno being washed in that last fight. Figgy's the same. Sorry, he is. He is. But again, it's like, see the way I said Lorna Kavanagh jumped up all those spots because Moreno's positioning was so good from where he used to be, not where he actually is. Kind of the same thing for Figueiredo, where he's sort of at that point in the rankings where he's not as good as he used to be, but he's still highly ranked, so he has to take on other high-ranked people around him more often than not losing. So that's the thing. Sandhagen, although he put in a good performance against Merab, he lost. Against Umar Nurmagomedov, another high-level wrestler, he lost. Unanimous decision. You know, he's lost to Aljamain Sterling as well when he was still at bantamweight. So he clearly has a problem against this style of fighter, very wrestling heavy. These guys that are very reliant on their grappling. Sandhagen does tend to struggle against these guys, and he has suffered more often than not. His losses are by decision. Guess how Mario Bautista more often than not wins his fights. If you said submission, you're not wrong, right? But it's a tie between submission and decision, right? So he's a good grappler, which is going to cause a lot of problems for Sandhagen, and it's why I'm picking Mario Bautista. You know, Bautista's only other losses to I say only other loss, most recent loss was to Umar, who's just a higher level wrestler than he is. That's all that is. But you see him beating Vinicius Oliveira, Patchy Mix, okay, don't laugh. And then before that, okay, I watched Jose Aldo, okay, but even that, remember Mario Bautista versus Jose Aldo? Remember that one? He then beat, again, Ricky Simone and then some other guys. But I see Mario Bautista winning this one by decision. And I don't like that, because when you look at the rankings shaping up, I want to see Sandhagen versus O'Malley. If Bautista beats Sandhagen, I don't think we're going to see it. So that isn't ideal, because Bautista and O'Malley train together, so they're not going to fight each other. So now at the top of the rankings, you're actually left with Merab, Umar, O'Malley, and then Bautista. So you're then just left with these rematches where Bautista's already lost to Umar. Bautista and O'Malley aren't going to fight each other. O'Malley would then have to fight Umar or Peter Yan, but Merab's going to get that fight against Yan. Or else you do O'Malley and Merab 3. Nobody wants to see that ever again. No one needs to see that. The first two fights were horrible. Like, it just kind of fucks up the division. And that's why it's going to happen. Because you're going to actually look at bantamweight and go, wow, we have Peter Yan and Sean O'Malley in there. And then we have Bautista, Umar, and Merab. Like, I suppose O'Malley could still fight Sandhagen. Because, like, I mean, he just beat Zahabi. He beat Song Yadong. It's not as though Sandhagen's going to plummet down the rankings. He'd only move down like a spot, so they could still make it happen. But it wouldn't really make sense for Sandhagen to, lose to Merab, lose to Bautista, and then still get Sean O'Malley. But then again, what other fights can you really make if Merab is going to fight Yan? Will O'Malley sit out and get the title fight? Maybe. But I'm taking Mario Bautista here by decision. Most of Sandhagen's losses come by decision. A lot of Bautista's wins come by decision. And that's what it's going to be. I'm predicting probably a decent... That's the thing. Bautista's either going to take rounds 1 and 2, and then Sandhagen will rally back in round 3. Or Sandhagen will put up a really good performance in round 1, and then Bautista will just lock in for rounds 2 and 3 and take the win. So that's what I'm predicting. Bautista by decision. Next, co-main event. In fact, just before we get there, Bautista, another underdog on the main card. So we've got Gable Steveson, heavy favourite. We've got Brandon Royval, underdog, and Bautista, underdog. Here, we are picking the favourite though. BSD will beat Paddy Pimblett, I think. Paddy Pimblett is just slightly worse than BSD at everything. Right? Like, and I mean that in like, okay, Paddy Pimblett can be effective off his back, right? He has good graps, okay? He has good jiu-jitsu. But you look at the striking, it's a shade worse than BSD. You look at, even looking at his percentages and stats here, right? Slightly less landed per minute, slightly less significant strikes. He absorbs slightly less, which is hard to believe having watched that Justin Gaethje fight. But then looking at their grappling, takedowns per 15 minutes, BSD smokes him 4-0. Takedown accuracy, of course, he shoots nothing, so the accuracy is 21%, BSD's is 35%. He's got better takedown defense, and Paddy's takedown defense is less than 50%. And BSD has a better submission average. BSD's KO record slightly better than Paddy's. His submissions slightly better than Paddy's. He has less average fight time and more average knockdowns per 3 rounds. So, in terms of what is actually going to happen here, BSD has far more dominant grappling than Pimblett. Pimblett's fights just seem to sort of end up on the floor. See, when he wins by submission, like his actual takedowns the stats actually don't lie here. He doesn't shoot. His fucking entries and actual takedowns are kind of weak. BSDs are pretty good, and I think this is how he's going to win. He's a far more aggressive grappler, and I don't think he's going to actually sub Pimblett or even knock him out. I think Pimblett's ground game is going to be good enough not to get submitted or not to get dominated. And I think BSD's groundwork is going to be good enough not to get submitted by the guy on bottom. So this to me is going to end up being the guy on top ends up winning the fight based on control time. Looking at BSD's losses, obviously the one that stands out is that knockout loss to Dustin Poirier. And it was bad. It was a bad knockout. But that's not even a threat here, right? Paddy Pimblett's hands, we've seen them against Gaethje. It was a very entertaining fight. Don't get me wrong, I enjoyed that fight. It was a fun watch, but it was not a display of terrific stand-up acumen. So his other real notable loss against Moicano, it was a doctor stoppage, right? But after that, you're looking at, he's beaten a lot of good stand-up guys though. Looking at Dan Hooker, Beneil Darius just has got zero chin whatsoever anymore. I don't even really count that. But Huffy as well, taking these guys down and just killing them on the ground. Paddy's not really of that mould. He's not really that good a stand-up fighter. Off his back, he's better than Dan Hooker on the ground. He's better than Huffy on the ground. I don't see him getting just dominated on the ground. But I don't see how in a stand-up fight he would beat BSD either. So kind of Luke Riley style. Who the fuck is Luke Riley even facing? Kai Kamaka, that's who it is. I think it's going to be like that, but in reverse, where BSD is just sort of dominant in the grappling, in control of Pimblett, and it just fucking stalls out to a 3-round decision. That's just what I see here. 30-27 BSD. Maybe 29-28, but then again, I don't see how he would take a round. I think he's good enough. 30-27 sounds like, oh wow, you think he's going to get dominated? And kind of yes, but it's like it's a domination without taking that much damage. I'm sure you can imagine. I can imagine what I'm saying in my mind. I'm trying to convey it right now. I hope I'm doing a good enough job that you get it. But I just don't see how he beats BSD. Is he going to knock out BSD? Is he going to take down BSD and start fucking piecing him up on the floor? Or even have is he going to be able to pull off all these submission attempts and sub BSD, or even score the points for getting close? No. BSD is probably going to be on top the whole time. He's a better offensive grappler. I don't know what to tell you. This is a bad matchup for me, for Paddy Pimblett. If he can win this, I mean, terrific for him, right? I'll give him all the credit and respect in the world. But these are the kind of fights that Paddy Pimblett missed on his way up. He beat Tony Ferguson on a just mental slide. He was on a 6-fight losing streak. He beat Michael Chandler. We saw how bad Michael Chandler is now. You've seen him against Huffy at the White House. His last fight was against Pimblett. So, you know what I mean? What does it really say when you beat that version of Michael Chandler? Before that, he beat Bobby Green. We've been over Bobby Green. That was, I just don't see... And before that, he allegedly beat Jared Gordon. He missed out. Those were his runs up to an interim title fight. Jared Gordon, which skeptical over the result. Tony Ferguson on a slide. Bobby Green and Michael Chandler on just whatever Michael Chandler's doing. These are the kind of tough matchups that he missed out on, and I think he's going to lose it. I just don't see him beating BSD. Now, main event time. And now, just before we get there, this is why I don't do full card predictions for all these cards, because we are 45 minutes deep here. Whereas normally, in and out, 20 minutes or so just for full card predictions, and it's all fights that people care about because it's main card on a pay-per-view. Okay? So this is why typically I just stick to main card, because we could be here all day. Second, I think I'm going to do the same thing that I done for the White House card for the review for this number card here, 329. I think I'm just going to do main card. We'll have a reaction for every single fight. And I might even lump in Gable Steveson's debut in there. I might lump in the Bobby Knuckles fight as well. And then I might just throw all the other prelim fights into like a whole card recap or something like that, because I'm interested in a lot of these fights to see how they pan out, similar to the White House card when I was interested in every single fight on there, and there's only 7 of them. So running through an individual review for all those fights seemed like it was a plausible idea and that it could be done. It ended up being like over 3 hours worth of content all told. So hopefully it won't be that long for 329, but I think that is the current plan of action. So there will be a review for every main card fight. Hopefully McKinney and Bobby Green goes beyond a round, because fuck trying to talk about that for 10 minutes if it only goes 30 seconds, but we'll figure something out. But look, that's the current plan of action heading into this weekend. Let's get to the fight. Conor McGregor versus Max Holloway, 13 years in the making. And I have Max Holloway, as though like we've had a lot of underdog wins as of late, okay? And I think that's like half of this is said in jest, okay? It's skewing the sort of opinion that, you know what, maybe Conor McGregor can do it. People are putting a lot of stock in the fact, and it's so fucking... Look at this on the face of it, right? Sean Strickland beats Khamzat Chimaev, okay? A lot of people, myself included, picked Tara to beat Van. Didn't happen. Van was the champion. In a lot of people's mind, underdog wins. Even on betting sites, I'm sure Van was still the underdog. It was a slight underdog though. And then of course at the White House, a lot of people picked Pereira to win. Not everybody, but I think most picked Pereira to win. Cyril Gane destroyed him. Sadly, still not over it. And obviously the crown jewel of upsets, Justin Gaethje beats Ilia Topuria, and people think that there's just something in the air. But again, look at the face of this. Strickland beats Chimaev. Van beats Tara. Gane beats Pereira. And Gaethje beats Topuria. Somehow this means that McGregor's going to beat Max Holloway, even though none of it's related whatsoever. People are putting so much stock in underdog upsets. People are putting so much stock in the fact that this is 170. And oh my god, Max Holloway's not going to be able to fucking move at 170. He's apparently just going to be a big ball of sludge because he's not cutting fucking 25, 30 pounds or however much his weight cut is. And McGregor's going to be all roided up and ready to go. No. Max Holloway is the favourite here for good reason. The whole 170 thing is because Conor McGregor cannot make 155 anymore. As much as he's saying, yeah, I could beat Max Holloway and yeah, I've got eyes for the belt at 155 or 170. The last few years, all he's done is cry about these guys sitting in the sauna draining themselves to 155. He's only doing that because he can't make 155 anymore. And I don't even think we can really talk about Conor McGregor in terms of, you know, what kind of fighter is going to turn up here. We literally don't know. You can only make estimates on how bad the downturn is going to be. When we last seen him, it was over 5 years ago. Okay, he broke his shin in half against Dustin Poirier in a fight that he was losing. And like I say that, it was a round, okay? Fight before that, he get KO'd by Dustin Poirier. Before that, he beat old man Cerrone before he retired. Before that, you're then going back to Khabib. And before you know it, it's 2018. All over again. Just like that. So from Khabib in 2018 to Cerrone to 2 fights against Poirier, lost both, shin breaks in half. Now, I was thinking about making this its own separate video where I actually look at Weidman and Anderson Silva. And talk about the effect that the leg break had on their career, and now look at Conor McGregor coming back now. This injury only, it's like, it spells the end. And Conor McGregor's coming back, again, my theory, just to run out his contract and open him up for boxing matches and or massive payday for MVP on Netflix. This injury is the same thing Anderson Silva had against Chris Weidman. Funnily enough, Chris Weidman got the same thing. Same thing happened to him. It changes you as a fighter, okay? Not only just in their losses that they suffered, which I think Weidman only had like 3 fights after that. He lost 2 of them. Anderson Silva, who never lost, right? He was on that 16 fight win streak. He get beat, he get KO'd by Weidman, he then broke his leg after that, and then you're struggling to find wins. His win over Nick Diaz get turned to a no contest, and after that it's just loss. Because it changes you as a fighter. Conor McGregor's not going to come back even nearly the same as he was before, and even at that, the break between Khabib to Cerrone was a long time, and then from Cerrone to the Poirier fights, he's never been active. Like, since the Mayweather fight, he's never been active. In every return, okay, bar Cerrone, whatever, he won that fight, cool. It's been trending downwards, and then you add the leg break on, and we're 5 years later, and you're coming up against Max fucking Holloway, who in his last fight, okay, held down by Charles Oliveira. Conor McGregor's not going to hold you down. Just not going to happen. Dustin Poirier, he beat over 5 rounds, and there was, I say, a slight scare. He get knocked down. In the second, Dustin Poirier couldn't help himself. He had to jump the ghillie, which was an amazing moment in the crowd, absolutely deafening. He was never in any actual danger, though. Okay, he got knocked down. He wasn't actually, there was no threat of, oh my God, Max Holloway's about to get finished here. It wasn't really like that. He was in total control, 49-46, Dustin Poirier, easy. And that was a Dustin Poirier who was just off the back of a Islam Makhachev fight, which he ran to the very end. 5th round, he gets subbed. Lots of people get subbed by Islam Makhachev. Lots of people get beat by Islam. Dustin Poirier, great fight, ran him to the 5th round and get subbed at the end. Like, this is still a high-level Dustin Poirier, even if it was his last fight. It's not like fucking Cowboy Cerrone, who hadn't sniffed a title fight. Before Dustin Poirier, he lost to Ilya, of course, but then before that, it's the Gaethje win, and he just sparked him out gold. And none of this is even relevant to the result here, okay? All you need to know is McGregor split his shin in half, took 5 years off, comes back and thinks he's going to beat a top 5 lightweight at welterweight. Not going to happen. In terms, like, Max Holloway, we'll just get into the prediction now. I've dragged this out long enough. Max Holloway, I was going to say, like, round 4 finish. Normally Max Holloway fights a predicted decision, but in this case, no, this will be finished because McGregor will not be able to last 25 minutes. When this fight was first made, I was like, oh man, it's going to be a late stage TKO, right? Round 4, round 5, that's when it's going to end. And as this fight has gotten closer, the actual time I've given this fight has shrunk, where it was, okay, I was thinking round 4, Max Holloway finishes him up against the fence and it's done, and McGregor just sort of welts because he's exhausted. And then I've thought, okay, that same scenario, but in round 3, because there's no way he's making it past 15 minutes. And now I'm thinking, does he even make it past the 2nd round? You know what I mean? I'm imagining him being absolutely exhausted by the end of round 2. Because you know what's going to happen. McGregor's going to come out. He's going to throw, he's going to take the centre. He's going to throw the fucking 1-2. He's going to throw a spinning wheel kick. He's going to throw a spinning back kick. And he's probably going to try and, like, I don't even think he's going to throw a leg kick. But he's going to throw out some dumb shit that he's been working on in the gym. It's all going to be condensed into, like, 1 minute. Max Holloway is going to weather the 1 minute storm, and then the actual fight's going to start. And Conor McGregor has ran a 10-minute race in 60 seconds. He's going to be fucked. And I don't even know if he makes it out the end of the first round anymore. Sorry, people think this guy's locked in. Dustin Poirier gets arrested. Conor McGregor doesn't say anything on Twitter. People think this guy's locked in. Conor McGregor doesn't do, the pre-fight promo or Embedded or whatever the fuck I seen on Twitter. I don't watch Embedded anyway. But he's not doing the pre-fight promo that all the other fighters do. McGregor never does any of this shit, right? Going back to his prime, he's turning up to the fucking weigh-ins and the press conferences late, right? He doesn't give a shit. He'd never done any of this. People using this as, oh man, he's just so locked in. He is so locked in to the 10-minute beating he's going to get. Max Holloway, round 2, TKO. And the actual picture coming out of this, or the meme, is going to be McGregor on the stool at the end of round 1, wishing he never came back. And I'm sad about that, right? I don't know how this has actually came across because I've been speaking for like 10 minutes straight. And I'm not even going to re-listen to it. This is just going to go out how it comes out. Conor McGregor is one of my favourite fighters of all time, right? Say what you want about the person, but in terms of actual people who got me into the sport, he is 1A, 1B, along with Ronda Rousey, right? This guy, extreme nostalgia for me, personally. We've seen what he's been up to in the past 5 years since his leg break. And people are putting a lot of stock, again, in like his training videos that he's been putting out. Like when the White House card was announced, that's when he started training. At least that's when the videos started to come out. And it didn't look good. It really did not look good, but he was preparing for a return at the White House. And all of a sudden, all of that's just gone straight out of people's mind. They think, okay, this guy's been back at it hard for what, 6-ish months, 7 months, maybe even longer than that. Has it been a year? When the fuck was the White House card announced? Let's cut it in the middle. Let's say 8, right? 8 months he's been back at it, trying. He done 4.5 years worth of damage to himself that I don't think anybody can come back from, even after the leg break as well. Compound the actual damage he's done to himself on top of the leg break over the past 5 years, and all of a sudden a 6-month, 8-month training camp has just squashed all of that, and this guy's coming back. And because of the underdog stories, the fact that this is at 170, can Holloway handle the power, ignoring that Max Holloway has only been chinned by Ilya, and he drained himself to do it. He trained to make the weight at 145. He's now up at 170. The chin is going to be better than it ever has been. I've actually lost the thread of even where I was going, but look, you don't survive the level of damage that McGregor's gone through the last 5 years, and you come back, you're not going to be the same fighter, because last time you were in the cage, your leg snapped in half. And it's not even, but McGregor's different. Anderson Silva was the GOAT of the sport. He was literally the best we had ever seen. And you see what happened to him after that leg break. Chris Weidman had like 3 or 4 title defenses. You know what I mean? Like, he was a top level guy. And breaks his leg, you see what happens. It fucks with your mind. And yeah, his cardio was never the best. Max Holloway, as John Anik likes to tell, is best volume puncher in UFC history. Is this really a BMF fight? What the fuck are you talking about, DC? Of course it is. Yeah, Max Holloway, round 2, TKO up against the fence. He's just going to be teeing off. McGregor's going to wilt and crumple to the floor. This is what I'm seeing right now in my mind. And that's it. That has been UFC 329. I'm predicting it. I'm saying it before this happens. This is basically a preview and review because everything I say is 100% correct. So come back here to remind me how correct I am after the fights. So, content out this weekend. Everything on 329 will be discussed this weekend after the event. In the lead up to it, more McGregor content on the way. I don't know about the retro reviews. I'm going to stick UFC 28 on at one point and get that watched, hopefully up at some point this week, but don't hold me to it. We have a lot of other stuff on the way. And next week, we'll be back to normal after the McGregor chaos comes to an end. Thank you very much for watching. Like and subscribe, and I will see you all next time.